Today we're doing Chapter 3, Section 8, and it's Functions and Relations. So we're really going to talk about domain and range. I'm only going to do a few basic examples in the notes, and then we're actually going to spend time in class doing some more examples together as a class, because this is kind of a difficult topic, and I want to make sure you have the chance to ask questions while we do some of the examples. So I'm just going to do 2 in the notes, and then we'll ask questions when we do the rest in class the next day. So here's our first example. We are going to figure out what the range of the following function, so there's our function we're going to be using. We're going to find the range if the domain is 1 and 2 and 3. So if you don't remember, domain stands for x and range stands for y. And I'm just going to take each of those numbers and plug it into our function. So how I like to do this is I say, this says f of x is equal to 1/2 x plus 2. Well, I'm going to figure out what f of 1 is. So I'm replacing every x that I see with a 1. So f of 1 is equal to 1/2. Instead of writing x, we're writing 1, because that's what we're feeding our function. And we're going to see what comes out. So we're going to keep this f of 1. We don't do anything with that side. It just helps us remember what I plugged in. And then we're going to simplify the other side. 1/2 times 1 is 1/2 plus 2. And then we have f of 1 is equal to 1/2 plus 2 is just 2.5, or if you want to write it as 5/2, either is okay. So how you would write your final answer for this one, when we plugged in f of 1, we got out 2.5. So technically our point would be 1, 5/2. So when our domain was 1, our range was 5.5. We're going to do the same thing with the number 2. I'm going to replace anything with x with 2. So we have, let's put it down here, f of 2 is equal to 1/2. And instead of writing x, we're writing 2 plus 2. This helps us remember what we plugged in the first place. Now we're taking 1/2 times 2, which is 1. So f of 2 equals 3. So when I plugged 2 into my function, 3 came out. So when my domain was 2, my range is 3. Last but not least, we're going to do the same thing with the number 3. So we're going to figure out what f of 3 is equal to. We have 1/2 times 3 plus 2. f of 3 is equal to 1.5 plus 2. So f of 3 is equal to 1.5 plus 2 is 3.5, or you could write that as 7/2. So when we plugged 3 into our function, we got out 7/2. So when it says give the range, that's technically what it's asking when the domain is 1, 2, and 3. You would say that the range, and then you're going to use those nice squigglies. I'm so bad at the squigglies. There we go, that's better. The range was 5/2, 3, 7/2, and then you do the squigglies again. And that's how you'd write your final answer, is you tell the range. Our last example together, before you have a try on your own, and then we'll do the rest in class, is this. It says let f of x equal x squared minus 1, so there's one function, and g of x equal 1 minus 2x. We are going to figure out what f of g of -2 is. So what that means is -2 is trying to break out. It's kind of like a caterpillar. It's wrapped up in the function g, and then it's also wrapped up in the function f. So -2 is the caterpillar. It wants to break out of its cocoon, and we're going to figure out what number it turns into when it becomes a butterfly, basically. So the first thing is it's inside this whole mess. It's inside my G right now. So I want to figure out when it breaks through G what it's going to become. So I'm going to plug -2 into my G functions. That's the one that's inside right now. So I'm going to take G of -2, because that's what it says. And remember, G is equal to 1 minus 2. And instead of writing x, we're writing -2. So G of -2 is 1, and then -2 times -2 is 4. So G of -2 is actually 5. Okay, so now instead of G of -2, we realize that G of -2 is 5. So this is becoming now f of 5. So -2 has broken through one layer of the cocoon. They broke through G. Now before it becomes a butterfly, it has to break through F. So we're going to take this function right here, and it says f of 5. So I'm going to take f of 5, and I'm plugging that into my function, because the caterpillar's gone through one stage and has become a 5. So we got to figure out what it's going to be as a butterfly. So instead of writing x, we're writing 5 squared minus 1. I just replaced the x with the number 5. F of 5 is equal to 5 squared is 25. So f of 5 is equal to 24. So it says find the indicated values. So we realized as a caterpillar that f of G of -2, when it becomes a butterfly, it's going to turn into 24. That was the answer. So what I want you to do is take that knowledge and figure out what G of f of -2 is. So it's actually the same functions, and we have the same caterpillar value, but our butterfly is going to be different because he has to break through F first, and then that number will break through G. So I want you to try this one on your own and see what you come up with. Good luck.